And welcome into Bruins Rinkside here on CLNS Media. I'm Evan Marinofsky alongside Boston Sports Journal's Conor Ryan. A very long draft day, very, very long rounds 2 through 7. It literally did go all day. I would have made a joke like, oh, it went all day, but it actually did go all day. The Bruins making 4 picks. They were supposed to make 5. They ended up just swapping 7th round picks with the Toronto Maple Leafs, so they did not have pick 213. But they did have a 2nd round pick, a 3rd round pick, a 5th round pick, and a 6th round pick. Connor, just your initial takeaways on the day.
Yeah, I think when you were going into this draft, a lot of experts and people were talking about the fact that this was going to be one of the deeper drafts in quite some time. And even though the Bruins gave up that 1st round pick for, that David Backes, Andre Kasha deal back in February, you still felt like they were still going to fall into really good value in both the 2nd and 3rd rounds. And didn't exactly go how I think most draft pundits expected in terms of who they took. I mean, the first guy you take, 58th overall, Mason Lohrei, a 6'4" defenseman. It's never a good sign when you're in the 2nd round and the national broadcast doesn't have like a graphic card or anything for the player. Just like,
like
yeah.
Who?
Anyway, but like we talked about before, it's like that's never a good sign there. And that was kind of the situation for most of the draft was when you're, shuffling through your notes and looking at potential fits and where NHL Central Scouting had players and other mock drafts. The Bruins kind of went against the grain and kind of went through their own, evaluations on players they were targeting, and all 4 guys they took, all U.S. guys, a lot of guys tied to the USHL or going to the college route or about to play college
Massachusetts.
Hockey. Yeah, of course. I mean, you have to have Raleigh Duran, Woburn guy gets taken, in the 6th round. So that was what we all expected there. But I think especially, if we want to focus just on maybe a guy like Mason Lohrei, who I think The Athletic had him, I think going in like the 7th round, I want to say.
Central Scouting had him in the 5th.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, you read more into some of the scouting reports on a few of these players, especially Lohrei, which there really isn't that much out there. But he seems like a player who down the road projects as, at least being intriguing if he pans out, right? I mean, he's 6'4". The reports say that he's, a good puck handler, a guy who's good under pressure. You read the reports, like, all right, well, if the Bruins found something in this guy, if they were, one of the few scouts who went to maybe his games in Green Bay or they just found something they think they can really develop over the years, where a guy who's 6'4" and he rounds out his frame a little bit, then, maybe they hit a home run there. But it's definitely a situation where it's not like you're adding a guy who you're like, all right, this guy's going to play, 1 year in college and all of a sudden he's going to be ready to roll. It's not, you're not finding any one of those guys. And again, I think once you get out of the 1st round, it's kind of a crapshoot anyway, in terms of, you're going to find a guy who's going to play 1 year, light it up, and all of a sudden be ready to, knock on the door at pro hockey. But it seems like the Bruins kind of went with their own kind of plan going into it, identified guys that think were, potential either steals or guys who they think were falling in a spot where they wanted them to. I think maybe the biggest concern was just the fact that maybe these guys like, Lohrei or maybe Trevor Kuntar, maybe they were available a round or 2 later, and you could have taken maybe another guy who is higher up on that list. That's maybe the only second guess, because I think at the end of the day, it is a crapshoot in terms of how we view how some of these players project. But I think that's only the second guess on my end. It's just the fact that, a few of these players you maybe could have gotten in the 5th round or even lower.
They all look like projects, and they all kind of seem like reaches. My thing is, again, like with Lohrei, you read the reports, they're comparing him like Colton Parayko and stuff. That's awesome. But you look at where he was projected to go, which is around the 5th, 7th round, that area. Why pick him up there then? I don't understand. Like, why would you not, if granted, they have their own scouting stuff. I guess all these Boston teams, the Patriots, the Red Sox, they pick out of, not the normal talent pool, I guess, or the normal projections.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels to me like, why would you not just trade? Then why wouldn't you trade that pick for more picks? Why wouldn't you pick somebody different and then try to get Lohrei later? I mean, to me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense, in the sense that, unless they had him pegged as a 2nd round guy, I don't really understand why they went with Lohrei there. You could have probably gone for him later. Now, I am not a draft expert. I have not watched much of Lorai. I went and tried to find some highlights. There were none. So it's a little odd. The Kuntar pick kind of intrigues me. I think he's definitely a Bruin-type guy. All of them actually are, especially Riley Duran down there later as well. So a lot of reaches. Also, I think people have to understand that this wasn't supposed to be that big of a draft for them anyways. I mean, you don't have a first-round pick. You're not the Senators in this case. You're not the Canadians, who also had a very good draft. You had 4 picks. You traded the 5th. I think it's definitely not amazing. It doesn't look amazing, but it's definitely not as bad as people think it is. And we also can't put a stamp on it yet, really, because these guys are all going to take years to develop. Mason Langenbrunner looked like he was 15. So,
I mean, he's 6'2",
it's gonna be a while.
He's like 6'2" and 150 pounds. Like these are guys who are still a few years away. And especially, I mean, you look at maybe not even the guys who are on the doorstep of maybe the NHL. You know, guys like Lozon or Zaboral, any of these guys. But they also have kind of that other way that's coming in with the next year or two. You look at a guy like Jack Ashan, who they got from St. Cloud, who is a college free agent. Like there's other guys who are going to supplement some of that gap in between what you're expecting from kind of that next wave of prospects that are coming up the system.
So that's draft night. What draft day? What a day it was.
Draft day, an entire day.
Long day of drafting. But at any rate, that's Conor Ryan from Boston Sports Journal. I'm Marinofsky of CLNS Media. Have yourself a great night.